Hello, welcome to Microsoft Community Insight Podcast, where we share insights and stories from community experts to stay up to date with Microsoft. Today, we dive into securing cloud application best practice for Azure with guest Tiago Costa. Can you please introduce yourself?
Hey, hi, Nicholas. It's a pleasure, just
Yeah.
to be here. Yes, my name is Tiago, and I mainly work as an AI and cloud architect for Azure, like I like to say it.
Yeah.
More Azure for the UK audience. And I've been in the industry for more years than I would like to confess, but I think my gray hair here tells a story about that. And I've been, involved in a lot of different architectures for, top companies around the world, where I just basically create architectures for them for like cloud native solutions, AI solutions. So basically, that's kind of it has been my life. Okay.
Okay, so before we dive into the main topic, could you just quickly tell us about your day-to-day job and what's involved?
No, yeah, sure. So, like I was saying, I basically help. I work for myself to start,
Yeah.
okay, and I have several customers, and in my customers, I help them, changing sometimes the way that they work, building them architectures for their new projects, migrations. So basically, that's one of the verticals that I do. There's a second one which I train people, so I also like to be in the classroom, being, virtual or in person, and, just helping people acquiring new knowledge so that they can just go there and put in practice right away. Those are the two
Okay.
main things. I also create content and, like to also create content for my platform, which is Learn with Tiago, where I share a lot of videos and exam prep courses and things like that. So it's always a fun time here in the office.
Yeah. You know what, through your experience, like talking to customers about architect solution, do you have lots of like AI driven scenarios
Yeah,
with customers?
no, definitely. That's the thing now, right?
Yeah.
And we're recording this in July 2026, and that's the hot conversation right now. But there's also a lot of customers that, they want something, they want to have
Yeah.
AI because they
Yeah.
have to have, because all their friends are having AI in
Yeah.
their in the applications in their companies, and but they're still not ready for it. Okay, so there's a lot of those customers where they don't even have any kind of governance when it comes to data. Or I just remembering the other day, I was in a meeting with a new prospect, so probably a new customer if everything goes well,
Yeah.
and they wanted to do something. Doesn't matter what it is. And I was like, okay, where you have data so that I can train a model so that we can build this. And there was silence on the other side. Oh, data, we need that. I was like, well, yeah, or else for more that I
Yeah.
want, I can't do that much around this. So that was kind of my proposal, was let's start building something to collect data for a while until we see that we have enough data, and
Yeah.
then let's start working on it. So it's always fun, when between customers that they are in very different parts in their journey. I also have customers that we have been doing AI for the past 10 years there. Okay. Not generative AI for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. But like using the Azure AI services to summarize some stuff, just to detect things in images, etc. Microsoft has been in the front edge when it comes to this, and we had amazing services for the past years already. And they're there. They are just building like amazing things today because they already have an history that is very long with AI. Okay, so there's always this big differences between organizations.
Okay. Do you think that some of the customer that you work with doesn't start with like a landing zone first? Because at the moment there's new AI landing zone, or you just want AI?
Well, yeah, that's depends a lot
Yeah.
on where those customers are.
Yeah.
Definitely, landing zones is we don't need to explain that. Is definitely a best practice, and that's the way that you should go. But there are customers that they just got a subscription. They just started to play around with Azure, and they have like now 3, 4 subscriptions, and it's zero organization on that. They just build stuff mainly to the portal. I call them ClickOps, by the way. So they don't even have kind of a DevOps approach. They don't use infrastructure as code, like literally nothing. Okay. They just go on the portal, they click, 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 and they build something. I have customers like this that, of course, my job there, my big role there is change the mentality, change the way that they apply things, and definitely landing zones. It is, a big part on how we're going to, make sure that they do things the right way. And I also have customers that, from day one, that's the way that we're doing things. We have landing zones. We have proper governance when it comes to Azure, like with all the policies that you can imagine. Okay. So, and very big restrictions for like some subscriptions. I have some subscriptions that you can't do anything from the portal. I have users that they can't even log in into the Azure portal or any other admin portal.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, we fortunately, I'm fortunately enough to have customers in different spectrums, okay, in their adoption on how they are adopting things. And it's very fun to see the differences. And of course, trying to bring, the ones that are doing ClickOps to do, things in a much better way, because it's not being more productive, it's also being more secure. Okay, which is kind of the topic today, right?
It might not be saving costs like you were doing, because if you automated use infrastructure as code, might be saving a bit more.
Well, yeah, definitely. There's also the saving bits of it, because definitely we can also work out that. But I'm for me, I think the most important part in all of this is actually not the savings. Okay, it's actually a lot the cost perspective that we have in all of this. Okay, so definitely, there is tons of money that you can save. Okay, by going in a better way. But security for me, it is the highlight here. Okay, I'll say security first, cost then. Okay, definitely.
It's more a FinOps approach. So I always try to consider the cost when you design a solution.
Yeah, agree.
Okay, so is there any do you learn any, have you got any, for example, challenges when you design solutions and trying to apply AI to it for each customer?
Yeah, and then bringing the cost, by the way, that you brought that up. Customers that want to have a very fixed price on how much is this going to cost me per month, and they wanted me to give them a number, like, oh, it's going to be, I don't know, just throwing a number here, £2,000 a month. Okay, that's it. That's how much you're going to pay for this, and we can't do that. Okay, there is so much variables when it comes to specifically more when we start to talk about LLMs. That is actually pretty hard to bring a number, like a specific number. Of course, it's my job try to give them like an interval, that we try to narrow the interval as much as we can. But there's a lot of conditions for that narrowing, right? I had a customer, and I remember this because it's still an ongoing email thread, okay? And some calls. I think we're already like in 5 or 6 hours of calls because of this. Let's just call it issue, okay? Let's call it challenge, okay? Which was the numbers that I got from the customer regarding the number of users that were using the app was, let's just say, it's not this, but let's just say 10, okay? And when people started to use this for the first month, yeah, there were 10. But on the second month, someone saw, oh, this app is so cool, it's so good, we love it. Let's bring this to the whole company. And they opened up to the whole company without asking me to recalculate, okay, how much that was going to, you know, be built more, because they were hoping that, hey, that's just hosted in the server, and this will handle the load, and that's it, like a normal
Yeah.
application. But the problem is, on the other side, we have an LLM that gets context, spends tokens,
Yeah.
and then we are billed by that. So that was one that was a fun, that is still an ongoing discussion, okay? Because so that you understand the series of this, we have a cost that is more than 10x what was originally on the first month, okay? So yeah, it is fun. And of course, there is the now traditional one, which is we got to the end of the month with GitHub, credits. So full month in GitHub, that we have AI credits instead of having that fixed price per developer. That's also some fun conversations over there, regarding that, which also leads me to talk a little bit more with customers about the importance of, governance, the importance of reaching out to the users, this case developers, but in the end users of this, and talked about, like, hey, depending on what you're trying to accomplish, there are models that will be much better off than others, correct? So yeah, there is those conversations. Even the other day, I had someone on a call using Fable 5 just to query some very basic stuff in GitHub Copilot. And I was like, well, don't do that.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah.
you just see the amount of tokens that you spend, and it just showed up their AI
Well,
credit.
yeah, they
Yeah.
can see the token though on the GitHub. If you're using Copilot, they can see the
Yeah,
token it
exactly.
generated.
Yeah, yeah. And then I asked the person, can you just do the exact, just launch a new session, just do the exact session, just put it in auto, please. And the difference was like, wow, the person was like, oh, but we pay this. I was like, yes, you pay that. And there is still a lot of, people that actually don't know how things are being built. And it's up to us, just to basically talk them and explain this to them. Because when people explain, when you explain this and people understand, they're like, oh yeah, that makes all sense. Sometimes it's much more of awareness, on how things work and etc., than actually teaching stuff to people.
Yeah, it's the same like if you do, instead of like doing multiple prompt, if you write big prompt and with lots of like context of what you want, then it's easier. Otherwise it'd be smaller prompt and then you'd be wasting token. So it's like teaching them prompt engineering.
Yeah, that too. Sometimes there are people that, oh, why this is not giving me the answer that I'm looking for. Oh, the tool is bad. No, the tool is awesome. Probably the problem is you. In a nice way. Sometimes we have to tell that to them. Let's see how you're prompting this, because maybe this needs a little bit more context, or needs some other way of asking this. And sure enough, you will get there. Okay. And it's the same thing if you just walk someone, you're walking on the street, you see someone and you just ask something to that person. You need to give context, right, to that person, so that that person understands what you're asking for. So I was the other day in the city center, and someone asked me, like a tourist, just asked me, hey, where's the restaurant? Just this. And I thought it was, this is a new scam, They're trying to rob me something. I was like, no, it was just a family of tourists who were totally lost, and they wanted to know a specific restaurant. But the guy was so lost that he just asked me, where is the restaurant? I don't know, what restaurant are you looking for?
Yeah.
I need information. I don't know. It's the first time I'm seeing you in my life. Just give me some information. Just, yeah. That's exactly the same thing that we need to give to models.
Yeah, because if like for example in that scenario, if you don't know what the name of the restaurant where it is, then you can't help. So you need to give the context as well. So
Yeah, exactly. So
okay, you know when
that's exactly what we need to do when we're prompting, something.
yeah, it's the same for like the Foundry. If you deploy more than one module in a region and don't use it, it will still charge you. So
Uh,
if you don't delete it, because it's still deployed.
yeah, there's
So
still some charges, not that much, but
yeah,
there's always still some charges. I had customers, leaving all sorts of resources in Azure
yeah,
from very large virtual machines. Okay.
wow,
From app services, container apps, I don't know,
yeah,
clusters on AKS, and they're like, oh, but AKS is free. You don't pay. Well, you pay the compute, and
yeah.
you left 10 VMs running for a full month. So yeah, there's some charge there, So there's still some charges there, and we need to be careful and learn how to use the services properly. Yeah.
Okay, so it's kind of your job to quite educate them in some of the like best practice, what they can do, what you can't do.
Yeah. So a lot of my customers, they rely on me exactly for that, which is, first telling them what's hot right now,
Yeah,
where should they direct their efforts when it comes to innovation and all. And then, yay, let's talk about how we can use this in the best way for your scenarios. And at least for my regular customers, I know their business already quite well, and
yeah,
I can actually do a very, very good job in exactly translate tech into their reality. Okay, and how they can move faster within the tech world with the right tech that makes sense for their case. Okay, because there's sometimes look, amazing things, right? Amazing tools, but sometimes they're just too complex for their business. It just doesn't matter for them. And for example, Kubernetes is a great example of that. I love Kubernetes. Don't get me wrong. Okay, um, but I've seen lots and lots of customers implementing very simple solutions with Kubernetes, and I'm like, why are you doing this? This is
there
just a
might not be a
simple
need for Kubernetes. You might just use
app.
app service or something,
Yeah,
or
just
container
use
apps.
an app service.
Yeah,
Just use a container app. Okay, like Azure Container App, look, whatever. I don't know now, but depends, of course, on the use case that we're talking about. But
yeah,
something that is less complex, because you don't need that complexity. That's it. Because it's a departmental solution that it's never going to grow to the needs of scalability, reliability, and all that. That a true Kubernetes cluster will allow you to do that, which is great. Look, and again, I say I love my
yeah,
Kubernetes clusters, and I have lots of them deployed out there. But let's be honest, sometimes that's just not the best fit.
yeah. Maybe he want to learn Kubernetes.
Yeah,
Could
sometimes
be. Yeah,
sometimes that
that's the only
happens.
way. Yeah,
Sometimes, and that's actually in one of my customers. We actually did exactly that. We had a very large project, okay, that we're going to use Kubernetes, but the team didn't had any knowledge on Kubernetes. So we had another project that Kubernetes was probably not the best fit when it comes to the size of the project and all that. But we actually took the decision of doing that in Kubernetes so that the team could actually learn hands-on with something that if they mess up, was an internal app, no big deal. Okay. And then they learn, they use this to learn, and then we build that very large app a few months later in Kubernetes. Then that was actually super useful for them to have all that pre-knowledge that they gain from that real world app, but very much smaller. But we knew this, and it was kind of a wise decision that we took, and it was a decision based on numbers. And we knew that later on, it just made sense to just kill that Kubernetes cluster and move to something else, which we did, by the way. Okay. So that first application was actually basically converted in some other service. Okay. But that was super useful for that large one. Okay. So yeah, sometimes this we can actually on purpose, and then in a very conscious way, actually do that just to learn about the tech. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe you can just like, instead of like teaching them but the best practice, try to show them what it is so they know what it is. So like on the portal or like the token wise as well. So that could be another way.
Yeah, definitely. There's so many ways, and I always like to give them, when we're going for a new tech, I always like to give them like a short workshop on, hey, there's this is the capabilities, and showing them off some of the things that we can do with it, get a lab that they can, just kind of play around with it. We kind of, need to build something all together. We build something together, kind of a hackathon style thing. And after that, hey, now let's go for the real thing, and each one of us have our own roles, of course. And then, hey, let's build something. Okay. And then we go and we build together. Okay, we build something. That's usually one of the approach. No, not the only one, but one of the approaches that I actually. Let me just share my screen here. Okay. And for example, I have here, let's just put this bigger. Okay. It's my Azure, one of my, Azure subscriptions that I use for demos and training, etc. And one of the things that, that I always like to show off is basically Key Vault. Okay. And Key Vault is such an awesome service. And for you to create a Key Vault, look, it's actually pretty easy, because the only thing that you need to do to create one is just press create, and it's pretty much resource group, the name that you want, the region where you want this, and we have basically two different tiers, standard and premium, where premium supports hardware security modules to encrypt all the data, when standard it's based on software. Okay, there's some more things, but there's one that is very important, which is the access control that we can do on this, or permission model, like we call them now, which in here, as we can see by default, we now have our BAC, so Azure Resource Role-Based Access Control. So we call them our BAC, or Vault Access Policies, which is something that you should not do it today. Okay, it's definitely not a best practice, but you're going to find tons, like tons and tons and tons of key vaults out there in the wild using that one, because this was the only one available when Microsoft launched Azure Key Vault some years ago. Got it? So if you see them using that, hey, don't point the finger and say, oh, these people don't know what they're doing. That's probably an old one. You might say should already been but basically migrated into RBAC. I have to say yes, but there's also a lot of still some conflicts of certain services that do not allow RBAC yet. Okay, for certain things. So you need to be careful when you migrate this to see if you can actually migrate or not. If you can migrate it, you should already have done it. Okay, you're behind. Yeah. But hey, that's Key Vault, and let me just, for example, open this Key Vault in here. And in Key Vault, there's actually 3 objects that you can store, which is keys. Keys are like encryption keys, okay, for like you encrypting, like imagine a hard disk, okay, to encrypt data that you have in a storage account with your own key. So it's bringing your own key to encrypt data into Azure services. There's certificates for TLS certificates and such, and there is secrets. Secrets are just like little pieces of text that you want to keep it as a secret. Imagine you need to connect to a third-party API service, and the only way for you to connect to that, because it's a third party, so you do not control how the authentication is built and all that. Imagine it's through an API key, right? So where do you store the API key? So we can actually come in here, okay, and you can actually store, okay, that API key here as a secret. We call them a secret, okay? So I have, for example, already one here, like API key. And under the API key, see, I have two versions in here and everything. You can actually create different versions of your APIs. And then, you can just come in here, and this is the secret identifier that, because we're not on a Teams call, I have something that this is actually not showing up for you guys, okay? It's just blurred, but that's okay. There is a text here, okay? Believe me. And I can actually copy this, okay? And after you copy this, you can just basically take this as a URL, okay? And you can just use this through the SDK to capture, okay, the value of this API key. If you are, of course, authenticated, of course. Let me show you one thing, which is something that I truly love, okay, which is called, an Azure Key Vault reference. So a Key Vault reference is, the integration that we have with, Key Vault and other services. This could be Kubernetes clusters, can be, other managed services. Look, I will just show you with app services, okay? So I can just go in here in app services. And for example, let me grab this one here. And if you go to, for example, settings and then environmental variables, okay? So one of the cool things that I have here is the option to add app settings, okay? So I can add an app setting, and I can say app API key, and I could put the value of my API key in here, okay? And now, of course, if I show this, this will basically show something in here.
Yeah.
And I just randomly press some numbers, okay? But this, it's not the best place. The best place is in a centralized location like Key Vault.
Yeah.
And the thing is, hey, Tiago, okay, but that's really cool. But how can I grab this, okay, from Key Vault? So the thing is, the way that you have is, and let me just open your notepad, okay, and let me just put this in here. So there you go. So this was the secret that I had on the other side, okay, that I couldn't show you. And I can just take this out, okay, because that was the version of the secret, and I just want to show the latest one. So I'll just remove that part, okay, and I can now, okay, just grab this bit here, which is the value that I need to put there. And I just need to take this out, and I just need to put this in here. So now if you just put this here as a value, and if I zoom on this, so I have here, okay, basically my API URI, this, okay, I'll just apply this, apply. You're going to see that the source, it's going to show to Key Vault, okay? Still a red thing. Why is it red? Well, because you need to take care of what? You need to take care of doing the authentication and authorization, okay? So for this, we use another great service that we have called managed identities, okay? So if I go to identity, I think I already have a managed identity in basically in this app service. So the only thing that I need to do is go back to my Key Vault, and
you need to assign it.
yeah, under my under my secret, I can actually do this under access control specifically just for this. The granularity level here is exactly just that specific secret, okay? And you can add a role assignment, okay? And adding this role assignment, you can now say that you want the secret reader. So Key Vault secret user, okay, because you can read secret contents, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's exactly what we want. And now managed identity, we select members, and we can now, okay, select this one that I need to do something in here. So it's in the sponsor MVP. So I need to find the sponsor MVP, app services, and there you go. This is the one. Okay. Then you just assign this. Okay. And after you assign this, there you go. So now this, okay, should work. And if I go back in here, environmental variables, sometimes this is going to take a while, like a few minutes, okay, to refresh.
You
But
could
I'm
try to re-log in, I think. Yeah, sometimes that
I'll
refresh.
try to force it by doing pool reference values, okay, because
Okay.
sometimes it works quite well, okay. And he actually did it, and as you can see now, this is actually reading, okay, this part. So hey, you know what? Happy days, right? So that means this is actually working, okay. So this is just kind of a quick demo. I don't want to be here and bother you guys all with
Yeah.
lots and lots of demos, okay, today.
Yeah.
But I think this is so easy to do, having the secret and integrated with an Azure service using something called key vault references, okay.
Yeah.
So that's
Plus,
I think
another
that's
way that you can
straightforward.
use to another way that you use to govern it, your resources, Azure policies. So when you deploy something, you can see whether it meet your policy for your company before you're like deployed. So whether you have a high SKU and things as well. Those
Yeah,
are some of the
so
best practice.
exactly. Yeah. If you go to be super, governed, like I
Yeah.
have most of my customers in that level, we have, for example, subscriptions that's an internal subscription, only for internal apps. That, for example, only people that are connected to a specific network can actually access those apps. If you try to configure an application in that subscription that goes, imagine, allows internet access, or so from the internet to the app, or the app to the internet, if such, it's just not going to work, okay? Because we have lots of Azure policies in place so that those things are just not allowed, okay? And look, there is so much more that we could talk about. I have customers that for us, to do certain actions, we need to be in specific machines. Got it? So it's not like for my machine, I can't do certain things. I have a
Yes.
special
Similar
machine
to like a jump box type Baston.
that,
Yeah.
yeah, that I need to take off and, to use to do that. So look, there is so much that we could talk, and it's one of those things that it's unfortunate that we have to do this stuff, but it's needed, much needed. Okay.
Yeah, I think I had a scenario when someone thought Baston was actually a VM and just go on the internet, but didn't think it was a jump box. So
Mhm.
it's our job to educate them where it's the client side as well. 'Cause-
Yeah, and look, sometimes it's not, people are not doing this, okay, to arm the company or something, but they are putting the company in jeopardy by
yeah,
doing certain actions, okay. And again, it is up to us to kind of, I don't like to say teach them, okay, but guide them into the best behaviors that they should have, okay. Yeah.
I agree. So as this episode is coming to an end, we're all glad to get to know our guests. Tiago, are you going to any? Are you going to any events, or are you going to doing anything regarding community, or you just
Yeah, but it's later in the year. I think I'm doing Experts Live Switzerland.
in
And
November? Okay,
yeah, I
nice.
think it's November, something like that. And I still need to see what's up in October, because only now I have my agenda for the next few months is actually
Yeah,
organized, because this past months have been like totally crazy in terms of work. And yeah, I need to see, now that I'm a little bit more free, I can do
Yeah.
stuff like this today with you, and also be available to go to other places and speak, which is actually something that I love to do. Yeah. And
Yeah, because tend to like June, July, August tend to be like a pause for people when you'd
yeah,
be
yeah, exactly.
afterwards you'd be like conference season. So it's normal, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, it's usually conference season like April, May, beginning of June. Then things slow down a lot. They
Yeah.
pause, like you said. And then, yeah, September, October, it's going to be like a lot of a big push. October, I'm actually doing um, in Porto. I'm actually organizing, okay, that one, Collab Days, Portugal. It's going to be in Porto, which is the second largest city in Portugal. And we're doing that. I'm also going to speak at the Web Summit in Lisbon too, which is a small conference of 90,000 people, 100,000 people. So it's really,
Nice.
really large. So yeah, it's fun.
Is that the web developer one or is it?
It's more about uh, you know basically innovation, and there's a lot of hype around, also around like companies to getting funded and things like this. So actually my talk is going to be a little bit different than the usual. It's not so much of a technical one, okay, because the audience is quite a mixed audience. You have some tech people, but actually they are not the
Yeah.
majority. Right? So my talk is actually slightly different this time. Okay,
Yeah.
it's about
Plus
to use
soft
AI.
skills, yeah.
Yeah,
Things like soft skill talk is good. So what you've learned, experience, those you find more insights from as well. So you
no,
could
yeah, yeah,
present maybe
because
something like that.
yeah, I'm not going to show them, how to build an agent in Foundry or
Yeah.
something like that. It's just not the right audience for that. But yeah, I'll show other stuff, and it's going to be nice.
Okay. Thanks. Tiago, do you have any hobbies? Because I remember before we were speaking offline, so you would like to like renovate stuff.
Yeah, no. So hobbies for me is watching Formula One. Okay, so that's kind of one of my big hobbies, because I actually watch, not just the race but practice, qualification, everything, and I'm very connected into the world of Formula One. And I actually started a few months ago, a new hobby, which is 3D printing. I'm still learning it. Okay,
Okay.
yeah, but I bought a 3D printer, and I'm, printing some cool stuff, like, like a small tray here, and stuff like this. And I like to keep my desk super organized, super clean, and all that. So it helps me doing this and just doing some fun stuff, for the house, etc. So it's always now it's my big hobby. It's basically that, and the rest is just sometimes it's just relax, hanging out with the family. That's usually where I spend most of my time, my free time.
Yeah. Yeah. 3D printer is quite amazing because you can build stuff with it. Everything you can either build stuff that you haven't imagined, and then maybe just use it as stuff.
Yeah, and
That's
then
good.
and there's also another thing, which is just repurpose some stuff. That, for example, the other day I had a Surface headphones that I broke, that part that you put here on the top of the head. It just broke, and there was a model. You could 3D print that. Okay, is it as good as the original one? Of course not.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's working. I still have my headphones, and I can still use them. Okay,
Oh,
and then it's
nice.
it's good for the environment, right? Because you're not throwing something into the bin that is still properly working. You just broke a little bit, a little part. Okay, so I think it's actually quite cool. Okay.
Good. So thank you, Tiago. So hope
You're
everyone
welcome.
learn how fundamental and to secure and important to secure cloud application. So whether it's moving on-prem to the cloud and try to follow best practices. So when I Tiago mentioned about the key vaults or so. So we're here, some like himself are there to educate people on as a trainer or a speaker to help people to follow the practice, the best practice. So any question, just drop me a message, and then he will expand on it and how you can do it with some. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Bye bye.